So I'm good at fluffing. I just
Well,
think,
everybody's coming in.
getting weird. It's already getting weird. We're live. We're here today to talk to you about how do you package and price managed services. Guys, my name is Robin Robbins. In case you are not familiar with me, I am the founder, CEO of Technology Marketing Toolkit, TMT now for short. We've gone through that whole rebranding. And I've got with me Will Nobles, who is our chief head client coach. I mean, whatever, the highest order, the king of client coaching around here.
King of client coaches.
He is the king of all client coaches and coaching and mastermind, everything here. He is also CEO of Vector Choice and been a long-term member around here. I don't know if I ever told you this, Will, when we ranked our members of who spent the most money with us, you're like in the top 10. You may have been even number one. I'm not sure about that. So
well, we need to talk about that then.
Yeah, I know, right? So, but now I'm paying him to do client coaching because he's done such a great job, honestly, with Vector Choice. And he is well over 10 million in revenue. The company is acquiring other MSPs. It's growing like crazy, very profitable. And he works for me. Go figure that out. I don't know why he does it, but he does.
It's for the fun, Robin.
What's that?
It's for the fun.
Just for the fun of it. This is a fun thing. Sure. Yeah, it's just fun. That's all we have around here. No problems. Just it's a bucket of fun. Anyway, so he does that now, which is really cool because he's teaching our members how to implement marketing, how to be real entrepreneurs to the point where you can have a very successful, profitable, growing MSP and not have to work full time in it. So he is proof positive. So it's so we've got Will here, you've got me, and we wanted to do a session on packaging and pricing. And this is always a hot topic. I was just doing another webinar earlier today, and anytime you mention anything about packaging and pricing, everybody has just a ton of questions. What I'm in Canada, should it be the same? And what is service gross margin? How do you calculate it? And how do you calculate license fees? And how do you bundle this all together? And this is always a huge topic. And so what we found, and I should say really Will, because Will, I get a lot of the marketing questions. Will gets a lot of the operational packaging pricing. Everybody wants to see Will's package. It's like a joke around here. It's like, everyone wants to see, is he come out with the new package? So he has the new package. And it's very exciting. I haven't seen it yet, but I've been told by many people that it's just crazy. I mean, because he's running this very successful MSP and he knows how to do this. And so, he tends to get that. I tend to get more of the questions about how do you position it? How do you sell it? How do you market it? Those kinds of things. So we're going to be working together today. I will remind you guys, we are recording this. And if you have questions, please post it in the Q&A section, because that helps us when I look down. If you've ever run a Zoom meeting or a Zoom webinar, there's chat, which is great. But, chat really is kind of more for, hey, how are you doing? Or here's kind of you could put in the chat right now for all of you that are on, put in the chat. Let us understand what is the single biggest obstacle challenge that you have right now in figuring out how to properly package and price your managed services. Go ahead and put that in the chat. See, Robert saying he definitely does not want to see your package. You're going to want to see his package. Wait until you see. He's going to give you a little sneak peek of Will's package today, and you're going to want it. I'm telling you. So it's just crazy. But anyway, so go ahead and put that in the chat. So that way we get used to who's in the chat. What is the biggest, do you not know what to include? Do you have clients on old contracts and you don't know how to upgrade them? Are you still dealing with break fix? Are you confused about which are the best tools to include and all the things, because, I want to get an idea. So while I'm going to drive here for a bit, and I'm going to share my screen. And so Will can actually, what this will do, can you see my screen okay? Yeah, okay. Yeah. If you put that in the chat, Will can watch that. And Will, if you would just watch the chat and the Q&A, because it's hard for me to do this. And then let me know what people are saying and what you want to, and what questions they have, guys. So I think the first thing we want to start out with if you're selling managed services, your service offering has to be three things. And just like a three-legged stool, all three have to be correct. They have to be there. Otherwise, the stool will topple over. So your service offering has to be profitable. I mean, it goes without saying, because if you are selling an unprofitable managed services offering, you are very quickly going to implode and you're never going to be able to grow. And the reason you won't grow is because you won't have the funds to hire more engineers, to hire management level, to invest in training, to invest in marketing and new client acquisition. So, all of you probably have dumb competitors in your area that are always undercutting you, and they probably frustrate you. I'd actually be happy about that. I'd be like, yep, you know what? I hope you guys go cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, because all that'll do is they will get to maximum capacity and they won't be able to take on any more clients because they don't have the funds. They can't hire people. They can't buy tools. They can't outsource. They can't do anything. And so they're going to quickly paint themselves into a corner and not be able to grow. And they're not going to be able to get the better clients too, because the better clients are not going to tolerate cheap services, because when you're cheap and you're not making money, then you're cheap, right? And so when somebody comes to you and they're unhappy with the response time or the support and the services that they're getting because there's no staff to help support and be proactive, and there's no account management and there's no customer service, what's the excuse? Well, what do you expect? It's cheap. And so the really good customers aren't going to hang around. Even if they decide to use them for a little bit because they are cheaper, they're not going to stay there because they're going to find out really fast, quick, and in a hurry that this company can't support them. So you got to be profitable. You got to be scalable. And so how you package things, one of the things we'll talk about is you don't want a custom program for every single person because it's hard to scale. If you get salespeople in your organization, you got to have some standardization of what you sell. So that way you can onboard clients properly. Your salespeople can sell it properly. You can get pricing locked in. So you don't want to, it's got to be profitable. It has to be scalable and it has to be competitive. And being competitive is not necessarily just being cheap. You got to have the right services and support baked in. We're going to talk a lot about this, but your service offering, you want to have these three things, and you can price yourself out of the market, right? So if you just arbitrarily get on, like I said, I know some experts in our industry, and they say, oh, you got to charge $300 a seat. And if you don't, you're a loser and you suck at selling managed services and you ought to just go die somewhere because you're a complete failure in life if you can't charge $300 a seat. Well, there are times when you can charge $300 a seat and it is appropriate, but it has to be to the right type of client and you got to have the right service offering. If you just arbitrarily go out there and just raise your prices to $300 a seat and you don't have anything to back that up, meaning you're not selling the right services, the right package, you can't explain the value, you're selling to the wrong type of prospect, you're going to price yourself out of the market. So it's got to be profitable, it's got to be scalable, and it's got to be competitive, those three things, right? So what we're going to be covering today is the old way of packaging and pricing managed services that's causing you to lose money, meaning you're not profitable, and good clients to competitors. And we're going to talk about that. Will, I know you see a lot of this in coaching a lot of our members. We're going to talk to you how to know if you're charging enough or even too much. So we're going to talk about that, how to price your services so you're guaranteed to make money. And that's a really, really important thing. Simple but powerful changes to how you package and price managed services today to remain profitable and competitive, and what services you must start including or risk losing really good clients because they're going to be forced to fire you. There's a lot of changes going on with regulatory compliance, with insurance companies, with state regulations. So there's a lot of changes going on right now in managed services, which actually are good for you guys. Like when the government starts to mandate that you have to have certain things in place in order to do business with the government, or insurance companies, you have to have certain cyber protections in place in order to get a policy in place. That's tough on business owners like me because it's an extra cost and I got to calculate that cost in my business. But it's good news for all of you because it's always easier to sell something with a gun to somebody's head, meaning the government, regulating it, or insurance companies mandating it, or even some, savvy clients that are saying, I'm not going to outsource my payroll to you, Mr. HR professional, or I'm not going to have you as my bookkeeper if you're not going to be secure because I can't risk it. Right. So all that is tough on businesses, but it's really good news for you. So, Will, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, Robin, everything I'm seeing here is, people, I don't know what to put in my package. I don't want a nickel and dime. What should be in my package? Talking about state taxes based on state locations. If you're installing stuff, how does that calculate inside of a bundle? From different various, do you have a package and how do you raise prices after? So I think we're going to be addressing a lot of the comments that are coming up in the chat here.
Okay, cool. All right. So Will's got you guys. He's watching you there. So I think honestly, guys, selling managed services can be extremely profitable. It's a great business to be in right now. There's never been a better time to be a managed service provider. So that's all good. But I do think pricing these services, you have to be really sharp and on top of it. You can't just sort of guess. It is complicated. I'm going to give you that. So if this feels complicated and you are having a hard time with it, just know that it is complicated. So, it's not something easy. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of variables and you got to take a lot of variables into account. So the old way many MSPs are packaging their services right now, that needs to change. One, and Will said he sees this a lot, the service package is only labor. So we're going to do whatever maintenance. There's an RMM and an AV tool, and that's it. And everything else is either an upcharge, so you're nickel and diming the client all the time, or you're including it and not making money. Or I guess I could even say, I kind of tie into that, you're not offering advanced cyber protections or compliance, and a growing number of businesses need this. And it's going to get to a point where you're going to have to offer it just to be competitive. It's maybe not that way today, but we are rapidly moving in that direction. If
Robin, biggest thing, they're going to definitely get left behind if all you're doing is your labor, RMM, and antivirus. Right. We all talk about, antivirus and firewalls, or the days of those, just having those are over. You've got to start offering a cyber stack as well as compliance in your packages, or you're definitely going to get left behind. Yeah.
And, I'll give you a little quick story on that. And David Javahari, who is our current spokesperson, our reigning spokesperson, he said, he just closed a really big deal. And he said the reason he closed it is he's like, I think you do the same. Well, you have your basic managed services, and then there's a cybersecurity package on top of that. So they're two separate agreements. You do that, don't you, Will? I think that's how you.
No, we've actually combined ours together.
Okay.
They're different ways of doing it, but yes.
Okay. So it's one of the ways, right? Here's your basic, and it's not that there's no security in there. It's just, here's our managed services and here's our advanced cyber protections. And so David was talking to this prospect and said to the prospect, the guy was kind of saying, about the price. He was kind of giving a little pushback on the price. And David said to him, it's optional for you to buy the managed services, but not security. So if you want to do business with me, the minimum, you have to buy security. I won't even in other words, he would not sell him managed services unless that security was in there. And that's actually what won him the deal, because the guy realized that they were taking security serious. And so, again, I know you guys are dealing with and have dealt with a lot of pushback on price, on people not wanting to spend the money. And that still is going to be like a majority. But if you really want to get to those higher end smart business owners who actually understand the value of having their risk, because it's a risk to a business, mitigated. If you're not selling that, you're going to miss the best clients, because they're the ones who want it and will pay for it. And if you're not positioned to sell it, you're going to lose those opportunities. You're going to be stuck with the bottom 80% that all shop on price.
Well, one of the questions we have here is, what is the best way to see compliance is necessary for an industry? The biggest thing is you need to look at your insurance companies and the insurance carriers carrying cybersecurity insurance meet those requirements at a minimum. Then your state requirements. So if you live in a state that requires a type of cybersecurity, definitely look into that. That's a good way to upsell inside your state. And then third, if they're a federal regulation, if it's PCI, HIPAA, ITAR, FTC, the names can go on, right? That's what you need to look at in the different industries.
Yeah. You guys, it's like crazy. I mean, the stuff you got to know today, but that's the world we're living in. And again, if you want to get into the really profitable managed services deals, you're going to have to go upstream. And that's part of like even what I teach is knowing who your customer is, because maybe you can't be all things to all people. So you got to start thinking about, okay, we service medical, or we service construction companies, or we service whatever. You got to kind of learn that industry and what insurance, like Will's saying, the insurance, regulatory compliance by the state, by the city, by the industry. You got to be aware of those things. So, all right. So the other thing I think that we see a lot, as far as an old way that's still hanging out there, is when you sell managed services, not having hard edges, not saying here's what's included, here's what's not included, because I had this conversation, with a member. I won't name their name. Not that they're bad, I don't think I'm telling tales, but he was talking about managed services and he was selling all you can eat. I hate that too, because you're not a buffet line, right? You're not Golden Corral. You are a professional managed services organization, and not everything's included, right? And so he was talking about it. He said, well, I said, for example, let's suppose one of your clients, despite your best efforts, gets a ransomware attack. And let's say they lock all their files. So are you going to restore their entire network from the ground up, from the backups? And are you going to do that? Is that included? And he said, well, no, it wouldn't be included. I said, but the way you're wording it in your marketing and in your contract says that. Now, here's the thing I also want you guys to understand. If you have something in your marketing, but it's not in the contract, that client could still go back and sue you because they said your marketing said this. I don't care what's in the contract. If they can show on your website, you're saying all inclusive and so forth, that is still considered a promise to the market. There are regulations around marketing that you cannot say and do certain things. That's why, for example, I can't make specific income claims. I can't say buy the toolkit and you'll be a millionaire, because that is not, I can't guarantee that, obviously. So I can't make that income claim. And so with you and managed services, guys, you got to be really careful about using the term all inclusive, all you can eat, those kinds of terms, because it just takes an aggressive attorney and you got a problem on your hands. So just be very, very careful. You could call it something else, but just be very careful about hard edges. Here's what's included. Here's what we're going to charge for. That way the client is not confused. They're not upset. In fact, and Will, you were with me at the day with Robert Herjavec. We just went to spend a day with him. Robert's the nice shark on Shark Tank. He has the Herjavec group. Now it's Sedaris. It's a $1.2 billion a year MSSP VAR. And, one of the things they've discovered is when they're onboarding a client, they used to just have the sales reps like sell a service, right? And then when they get in there, they're like, oh, well, we need to do this project and we need to do this upgrade and we have this project and this project. And the client would be pissed going, well, wait a minute, you never told me you got all these other things. I thought this was it, what you sold me. And so what they've done now is they've created a roadmap. So when they get a client on board, they're like, okay, here's where you're starting, but we've got to get you from where you are to where you need to be. And there's going to be projects and there's going to be additional budget that we're going to need. And by doing that, the clients are not as upset. So again, that's kind of part of like the hard edges, saying, here's where we are, here's where we need to move you to be, here's what would be an extra charge. And that way the client is not upset. And let me also add on from a marketing standpoint, there's a marketing piece I put together for another client that is I'm going off the top of my head, but it's something like the 5 ways cheaper IT firms hide the true cost in their contracts. And basically just saying, they'll say things like all you can eat and all inclusive, but is it really? And here's ways that they make their services look cheaper, but then they're going to nickel and dime you, or they're going to underserve you. They're not going to give you everything you need, or they're going to later come back with a project and, oh, that's not included. So if you have hard edges, you can actually, it's not a negative. You can tell a client, look, one of the things you want to ask is what's included and what's not, because a lot of MSPs will just say, oh, it's all included, but it really isn't. And then you're in deep with this MSP and they're supporting your network and you need something. And then they're saying, oh, it's going to be an upcharge or extra. And you weren't expecting that. And so, it doesn't have to be a negative, I think, but it's important because otherwise, if you don't do that and a client gets angry, what a lot of you will do will just say, okay, we'll include it or we will discount it. And now you're doing work for free. And we go right back to where you're not profitable. All right.
Yeah, Robin, we got a question from Bo. How do you define those hard edges? And really, Bo, the way you want to define those hard edges is have a clear statement of work, SOW. And even, for example, when you say unlimited remote support, what does that really mean, right? And so you want to define those terminologies as, and like in our definition for my SOWs, is 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday, excluding holidays, right? So I'm clearly defining, that's the clear edges around that, besides blanketing it saying unlimited remote support or unlimited on-site support. How many of you guys have had someone come to you and say, well, your contract says unlimited on-site support, so I want you to come on site every time you touch our system. Well, in our eyes, we know in the MSP world, the terminology of that is not what the client perceives, right? Mm-hmm. So putting those hard edges around that.
Yeah. And even saying support for devices we're supporting, because what happens if they call you up and they got some device that you're not supporting, like a home computer, and they're like, hey, you said it was all included. And I check email from this home workstation. You got to be very clear that it's for devices under your control. So, it's just like, it's like anything else. The longer you're at something, like my speaker contract, when I first started speaking, was like a paragraph. It's like, I'll come speak on Thursday at 9 to 10 and here's my fee, right? My speaker contract's like 4 pages now, because as you do business, you start to see how people take advantage of you, and you gotta, and you'll find out the same thing. So you gotta have hard edges. Every client, has a different contract, making it difficult to bill and manage. So that's an old way. Sometimes you get in front of a client and they don't think they need all that or whatever, okay, can we pay for high-end support for our servers, but not our workstations? Or they try to mix and match or something. So, avoid that, because to scale your business. Now, when you're small, you can keep a handle on it. You got 5, 10 clients, even 20 clients, you can keep a handle on that. You get to 200 clients, it's going to get real messy. So you want to have standardization because that allows you to scale. All right. So there's that. And then still offering break fix as an ongoing means of support. And I want to clarify this. When you're doing marketing, especially if you're doing digital marketing, lead generation, and leads are coming in pay-per-click or retargeting or whatever you're doing, LinkedIn ads, a lot of people are going to come into prospects are going to come in with a project. They're going to come in as break fix work. And that's okay to take them, obviously qualify the company or the client, not necessarily the opportunity. But what you want to do is you use that to get in, build trust, develop a relationship, and then start having a conversation about, we really you need a professional managed services company around here, right? So it's okay to start out if a relationship starts out that way, but you don't want it as an ongoing, like 3 years later, you're still just doing break fix for this client, right? You want to really work towards getting clients that are coming in as project work, like a VAR, like a service, professional services or something, and moving them to managed services. You don't want to have it ongoing. So Will, you have anything else you want to add on that?
No.
Okay. So number one, let's make sure you're making money, because you got to do that before you do anything. You don't want to be competitive and scalable, but then you're not making money, because all you're going to do is scale an unprofitable organization and go into debt, right? So you got to make sure you're making money. So I'll give you some managed services by the numbers. You want to try and get at least 70% of your total revenue to be recurring, and the rest is going to be in projects. So if you're $1 million a year MSP, 700,000 is MRR or ARR in that case, because we're talking about annual recurring revenue, and the rest is going to be in projects. You should sell managed services, specifically infrastructure management, help desk, for no less than 150 per seat. And then you're selling advanced managed security or compliance on top of that. And this always twists a bunch of people up. We'll get into that. There's a pricing chart we're going to give you. What does that include? Yeah, I mean, it is different. If you're in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, it's going to be a little bit different than if you're in LA or New York City. But if you're selling managed services for $80 a seat, I can almost guarantee you're underpriced. If you're less than 150, you're probably not profitable. And profitable means this. Profitable means you're getting 50% gross margin on projects and managed services, 20% on hardware. So another rule of thumb, if the per seat price is making you crazy, okay, and that's per user, right? That's making you a little nuts. At least just look at your service gross margin. As long as you're getting 50% or better on services and hardware, you're going to mark up 20%. I know some people mark it up a little bit more. You should be okay. But 150 per seat, if you're not doing that, you're not profitable. What profitable means is number one, you, the owner, are paying yourself fair market salary. So you're not paying yourself $30,000 a year. You're paying yourself anywhere from $100,000 a year up to $500,000 a year, as you get up into 10 million, 15, 20 million kind of range, right? So you're paying yourself fair market salary and you are putting at least 10% to the bottom line EBITDA, meaning net profit after fair market salary, up to 20%. Best in class MSPs are at 20%. 10% is like the new break even. If you're under 10% in net profit, you're on life support and you've got to fix that. So if you're not 150 per seat, I can practically guarantee you're either not profitable or you're down low in the, you might be 11% or you're down at, 9%. Now it's not, that's a generalization. Every situation is a little different, but that's kind of what we see, right? If you look at the MRR of a $2 million year MSP, you're looking at roughly about $1,950 per month plus projects, just to give you some idea. And churn for managed services that you're not intentionally firing should be less than 12%. Again, I just want to be clear. So you're going to lose some clients because they buy, they get sold or they merge with another company, or maybe the owner, like the management turns over, or maybe they do fire you. Maybe they find someone cheaper. One of their friends gets in the business. You just screw up and you lose a client. It happens, right? So, but it shouldn't be over 12% of clients that you're losing. Now, like we have seen, for example, and again, I won't name names, but we have seen some members where they are churning way more than 12%. Because they're losing clients to mergers, acquisitions, right? And so that's a little different scenario. I'm talking about that you're always going to have a little bit of that, but you want to make sure it's less than that. Will, any thoughts on that or?
No, I absolutely agree with what you're saying there. My goal is try to be around the 64 to 70% gross margin. But yes, 50% is the lower end where you want to be, but about 70% is ideal in the top level. I had a question here. It would be great for us to have a webinar on contracts. So we actually do in MSP Launch Academy. We do Contracts 101 that we cover all the types of contracts that MSP should have. So if you're a member, definitely go see that on the dashboard. If not, definitely sign up for that. And then we're getting questions about what's the 150 per seat include. And when I come to the dollar amount, right? It's about what your hard cost and soft cost is and getting the right profit margins. And I actually teach a class just on breaking those down. We don't have enough time today to cover that. And then also, should we charge per seat or per user or per device? What I've changed in my 2023 package is I actually charge per seat, per computer and per user, because obviously things like antivirus is not for a user, but user training is not for a computer, right? So we've broken that out. So a different way of looking at how to charge, James, on that.
Yeah. And, and then you have people like me who have 2 laptops and 2 desktops and I'm like, so I would be like breaking the bank on somebody because I got my Florida laptop, I got my Nashville office, I got 2 laptops. I'm a very needy person. So so anyway, so okay, we'll get into this. I think we're going to answer some of these questions. We got a pricing chart we're going to get you in the ballpark, but okay, right. So one of the things I want to show you guys is, and ask you is, have you adjusted your pricing up for all clients? And this is a chart of inflation. And you can see, obviously, in 2019, we're bumping along here. 2020 hits, drops down a little bit because of COVID, but then it has just shot up and it hasn't gone away. And I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to maintain where it is. And so what we found is a lot of MSPs have not adjusted their pricing enough. Some have, but most have not adjusted it enough. Now, according to Paul Sissel, who is one of our experts in residence, and Paul is, he runs, I think, about 8 or 9 of the service leadership groups, which are best-in-class MSPs that are growing and profitable. And, and he has said that the best-in-class MSPs have all raised their prices by 20 to 25% over the last year. And still have grown 20% on top of that. So even though their pricing is going up, they're still growing. And I think a lot of you have not adjusted it up enough. So this is a slide from Greg Crabtree. Greg is another expert in residence here at TMT. So Producers Club members have seen him quite a bit. And this is a MSP data. And now this goes to October of 2022. So it's lagging a bit, but it still tells the story we need to tell. And you can see down here, this yellow line is net operating income, which is your net profit. And then you're looking up here at the gray is non-labor operating expenses. And you can see it's just gone up, and it's steadily gone up. And then the blue line is revenue, and the top line is labor. So you can see that labor rates have been just escalating, specifically, especially for engineers, because we all know, like, your admin, just your general admin people, maybe their salaries, there's a cost of living adjustment, but it's not massive. You talk about engineers, and the rates for them have gone up exponentially. And so you can see that the gap is getting bigger between the revenue and the net. And that's because they are generating more revenue, but their pricing has not come up. And so the gap's getting bigger. And so this just goes to show, guys, most of you are probably not generating 10% EBITDA or better, and not paying yourself a fair market salary. And that's nuts, because right now, more than ever, the demand for IT support services is through the roof.
Yeah, Robin, I got a question here. How does a small business, medium business afford it? With 30 seats, it'd be $4,500 a month. That's only $54,000 a year. That you can't even hire a body to do that.
Exactly.
And it's all the tools that you come with, the monitoring, the preventive maintenance and stuff. I'm in 7 different markets, from Philly all the way down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I sell my prices at that in any of the locations.
Right. Yeah. I mean, guys, like you say, that's your head trash talking. You'll forgive me. I know this, I'm being hurtful, but that's your head trash. How can they afford it? See, if you think you're expensive, if you think that's expensive, you're never going to sell it. You're never going to, because you think, think like Will's saying, it's 50, let's say it costs a small business $80,000, right? I mean, that you're getting an IT department for that. Like, no small business could get an IT department for $80,000 a year. I mean, you can't even, like, one person, and then you got payroll taxes. What if they're sick? What if they're stupid? They don't do a good job, and they don't, they can't do everything. Maybe they don't know how to, they're not good with help desk, and they have to know servers and infrastructure, and they have to know cybersecurity, and they have to know all these things. No one person can do this job anymore, right? So that's your head trash, right? Get that out of your head, because there are plenty of people who are willing to pay that. And the only thing holding back you from getting those prices is you. And I'm not saying everybody out there is going to roll over and pay those fees. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's kind of like the saying, you get what you tolerate, right? And if you'll tolerate clients who pay less, then you're going to get less. And if you make it so you will not tolerate anything less than profitable, then that's what you're going to get. And you just have to, it's a mindset change. I know it sounds, I know you're going to say, oh, Robin, you don't know. My clients are a bunch of cheap bastards. I live in the poorest part of town. You know, everybody's driving around in a used Volkswagen Bug with the patches on the tire, and they're so cheap they don't even buy new shoes. They just put duct tape over the shoes because they can't afford shoelaces. And you know, I mean, yeah.
But and Robin, the same thing happened to me. You know, when I first joined you in 2016 as a member, you remember when I was at Rapid, I said, right, I was arguing with you. I can't charge those prices in Atlanta. It's too saturated. There's too many MSPs. I think at the time I was charging like $55 a user back in 2016. I left that meeting after someone in the back of the room that was my competition said I was charging that 4 years ago. I went back, started charging $85 at that time. And now the same clients I was charging 85, I'm charging 195. So believe me, people will pay for it if they see the value, but you got to show the value.
And you got to do a good job. You know, because they're not going to pay. That's why I say you can price yourself too high. I mean, so you don't want to just say, well, I'm going to charge, beat my chest and go out there and charge $300 a seat, and you don't have the services to back it up. I mean, you might be able to convince a couple people, but they're going to be like, you're not any good for that. And I'm not seeing the value. I'm out of here. But so you have to have the value behind it. But most of you are erring on the side of being too cheap. Okay. And you guys know the evils of low margins. You can't compete. So another data point that you guys might find interesting is the larger MSPs. Now we're talking an all-in cost. So everything they spend on sales and marketing to get a client, they spend about $27,000 to get a new client. And you know, how can they do that? Is because they're charging enough that they know they're going to get the profit. So getting a new client is like buying an asset. When you buy an asset, you expect to not make money on it immediately. So if I were to buy a house as an asset, when I buy the house, I'm not going to get my money back next month. It's an asset. Just like when you get a customer, a lot of times the return doesn't come in the first month, second month. It's going to come in 3 years later when they're still paying you. They've spent more money. They've got projects. They've given referrals, and it's creating value on exit. So when you exit your MSP and somebody comes along and wants to buy you, if you have good clients and good margins, you have a higher value, right? So you got to understand, if you don't have a sufficient margin, you don't even have enough money to get new customers. It locks you into being small. We talked about that because you can't afford to hire staff and grow. You can't pay off debts and store up cash reserves, which is like an emergency fund, which is critical. All of you should have that. Saved my ass in 2020 when I had to refund over $1 million to sponsors because our event got shut down. You know, and I didn't lay anybody off. I didn't furlough anybody. I didn't take away anybody's money. And I made good on that. I refunded all the sponsors who wanted a refund. Some of them stuck with us because I had an emergency fund. And that's because I was making enough money. So I can't tell you, you don't know when your COVID is going to hit. And you want to make sure you have cash reserves. You can't do extras that surprise and delight your clients. You can't build wealth. It's going to lower your valuation on exit. So there's a lot of reasons why you don't want low margins. I mean, just don't tolerate it. All right. So the question is, where does the money go? I mean, a lot of you are probably thinking, well, shit, you know, maybe we are charging 150. I don't know, whatever. Maybe we feel like we are charging enough. Maybe you feel like, you know, we got a lot of top line. And, you know, I'm a salesperson, and that's probably one of the worst things about being a good salesperson is we always think we can outsell our debts, you know, and I learned a long time ago, not a good way to live, right? So early on, I was like, spent every dollar I got and everything I could get credit. I mean, you know, it used to be a time where, you know, once you ran out of money, you kind of stopped, and that's all you could spend is whatever every dime you had in your hand. Today with credit cards, holy shit, you can go way past zero. You can just like pile it up. So, you know, that's not a good thing. You got to make sure you're making money, putting money aside, retained earnings. Like all of you should have at least 2 to 3 months of retained earnings, like capital for operating expenses, like salary, rent, utilities, your tools. Like you should have at least 2 to 3 months saved somewhere. Now in interest bearing an account, of course, right? But something you could get access to in case you needed the cash. You might want to buy something. You don't know, an opportunity, like another MSP might come show up where they're on fire and you can get them for cheap. You want to have cash to be able to do that, right? So where does the money go? And I think the biggest mistake is that so many of you price your services too low because you're trying to appeal to everyone instead of the specific high value clients you want, where price is not their first, second, or third item on the criteria for what they want to buy. And I know there's a lot of cheapskates out there and there's a lot of price pushback. I don't know if my business, you don't think we get price pushback? Prices, I can't afford it is the number one reason why people don't buy from us. Same reason you get it. We can't afford it. Like price is always, but it's never really the price. It's usually about something else, right? And so you want to find clients who want good IT support. They're not looking for cheap IT support. Okay. So because you've been beat up, you kind of get that in your head and your psyche, and you think nobody's going to spend money and nobody's going to pay these prices. And you start believing it. And it's because that stench of all the cheapskates is clinging to you, and you forget that, hey, you know what? There's higher value clients who want to pay for this. Maybe they're not as many as the larger majority who want cheap, but they're out there. And I got to price my services and build a company where the high value clients are building something for them. I'm not building it for everyone else who shops on price. Let my competitors have them. All right. 5 profit killers. Pricing too low. We've already covered that. Fear, inability to sell because you don't have a good sales and marketing plan in place. So you kind of catch can, whatever. Lack of confidence in yourself. Not knowing what your actual gross margins are due because you have poor financial reporting and disciplines. And so then you get on a webinar like this and we say 150 a seat. And so you go, okay, we'll just do whatever we think, right? 150 a seat. So you just kind of do what everyone else is doing, but you really got to know, you got to have good financial reporting and disciplines. Otherwise, you're not going to know if you're making money or not. Not raising your prices annually while your costs steadily increase. I know Will's going to talk about that. How do you do an annual price increase? Overall poor billing. This is another one, is you guys do not have a good handle on like collecting money. I cannot, Will, I know you've had conversations with MSP. Like I had one client come to me and they told me because one of their engineers, who was a senior engineer, who was a partner in the business, I hate to say too, was not logging hours. And they found out like 8 months, 9 months after the fact that they had various clients that they had something insane. It was like $600,000 that they hadn't billed clients. And then they discover it and they go knock on these clients' door and go, sorry, we forgot. I know it's January, but we forgot to bill you since July. Can you pay this massive bill right now? And these clients shit a brick. A lot of them said, we don't know. Some of them refused to pay it.
Yes. You can't go back.
Yeah. So they had to eat it on some of them. Some clients said, I'm not paying that. That's, you didn't bill us. I don't think you did the work. Then the rest of them, they had to just lower, they negotiated like, okay, we'll pay 20% or 50%.
Yeah, several years ago, we were not monitoring our techs from an hour standpoint. Once we started enforcing putting their time in, we actually increased missed billing by $17,000 on average, $17,000 a month of missed billing because they were not putting time in.
Yeah,
so it's tracking, definitely tracking.
Yeah, or you have a client that adds 2 new employees and you deploy the workstations and everything else, and you forget to start billing them for managed services or whatever, or the licenses or something like that. So, that's another reason that you could be priced properly, but you're not collecting all the money that you should. And therefore that goes right off the bottom line, right? I mean, anything you don't, but every dollar is a full dollar off the bottom line, not just the margin on that, the full dollar on the bottom line, right? And then
you don't really know how profitable a customer is if your techs, even though it's, it may be all in managed services, right? And I hate to use that word, but it could be that package. And if you're not putting your time against the tickets, you don't know the profitability of that client on an ongoing basis. You could be losing, they could be paying you $50,000 a month, but you could be spending $57,000 a month in cost.
Yeah. So you got to have that. And then the other thing we see, obviously Will sees this more. He has more of these conversations, but adding new software tools and services and then not marking them up. So they look at something and I don't know, Will, give an example like, hey, this is only $5, right? So I'll just
Oh
throw it
yeah,
in.
I see all the time like, oh, this is only $1.25. You know what? I'm just going to add it to the client's package and give it to them for free. No, upsell that. That is the opportunity to upsell a new service. Because when you add something, you're taking from your bottom line, and that's just killing your profits.
Exactly right. So you got it. But again, I think it comes back to not having good financial disciplines and reporting, so one of the things you got to do is you got to get an accountant or a bookkeeper who knows how to actually, give you financial reports, correctly. You got to have your employees got to, track their time, because otherwise you might have a client that's eating up your profits because it's got a super noisy environment and they're just clearing tickets, or they're a needy client. You might have another client that doesn't have that. So you got to, this is why you got to have really a discipline around this. And it is complicated. Okay. So what should you charge? Again, this is big general rule of thumb. So don't just take this as this is the right fit for everybody, but in general, project fees, 200 plus an hour. Full support fixed fee, 150 to 275 per seat. Partial support, and I'm going to show you what these are, 130 to 165 per seat. And these do not include projects, subscription software like Office, like 365 and other line of business apps, hardware, ads, moves, changes, because those are going to be professional services. And it doesn't, the services and tools you have in your stack determine your price. So again, don't just take these numbers without costing them out. So again, full support. So instead of all you can eat, you could call it full support. Can be per user, per device. Per user is most common. It's not all you can eat because projects, moves, ads, changes, hardware, major network rebuilds, software, data storage, they're not included. If you include them, you got to adjust your pricing. And it typically is going to include monitoring, management of environment, help desk, managed security, on-site support, and fractional CIO, where you're doing planning, budgeting, doing that roadmap, documentation. Those are all like leadership strategies. Now, the partial is going to include all monitoring and maintenance, but projects, help desk support, on-site support are billed at an hourly rate. So you could go that route as well, where you're tracking things like any kind of services that are in a core maintenance, and you're billing for that. I know this is going to blow up a bunch of questions. Okay. Now let me just give you a quick, I'm just going to go through this quick important lesson on raising prices, because a lot of you don't realize how substantial a little price increase. So let's say you have a 10%. So if you have 20 clients and you just do, the average MRR is $1,000 a month, and you do a 10% increase, right? And you have 20 clients, it's $100 more per month. It's $2,000 over a year. That's $24,000 to your bottom line, right? So you can see if we were at 1,000 and we just bump that up to 1,100, your net profit doubles. That's how much just a 10% increase, because the increase goes right to the bottom line. Because when you charge more, you're not like, it doesn't have a direct cost, right, to it, right? Now, if you add something, of course you got to share it. But if I'm just talking about a pure price increase, right? A pure price increase goes right to the bottom line. It doubles your net. So you can see 100 net before, with 10 clients. If we go to 20 clients, you can see it's double. And again, this is very simplistic. I get it. It's very simplistic, but it still makes the point. Now, on the other side of that, if you do a 10% discount to close a sale, 10% discount doesn't seem like that big a deal, right? But inflation has increased the cost across the board by more than 10%, right? So you look at, if you gave a 10% discount, if your profit margin was 10% and you're making $100 on every 1,000 and you discount 10%, you just erased 100% of your profit. You might as well not, you're better off not even having that client because you're working for free, right? So like, if we look at this and we say, okay, let's say you did a price increase of 10%, right? I know the concern is always, we're going to lose clients. We're going to trigger churn. I get it. And it's a real concern, because when you raise prices, you always have that risk of triggering churn. So you have to ask yourself, well, if we do a price increase, How many clients could we lose, could we churn and still make the same profit? Now, what's good about that, let's say you have 100 clients and you churn 20 of them, you got 80 clients now, but you're making the same profit margin or more. That's actually good because now you're more efficient. You can add on higher value clients. Like now you're not as noisy, as busy. There's not as much chaos, but a lot of business owners are obsessed with numbers, like big numbers, big growth. I got to have more new clients and they hate churn. And I understand why, but logically, you got to look at this. Just having more clients is not necessarily better. Being busier doesn't equate into profits, right? So if you let's say in this scenario, you raise prices 10%, and let's say you lost 2 clients. All right. So right now, if you had 10 clients and you raise prices 10% and you lost 2 clients, your net is still going to be $600 more. So in this scenario, very simplistic, you could lose 20% of your clients and you could still make more net. All right. Let's say you lost 4 clients, you churned 40%. You're still up $200 with a 10% price increase. You're still up $200 in total net profit. And if you lost half, you'd be right about the same. So again, people get very emotional about this, but you got to sit down and say, okay, if we were to churn, what would the MRR churn be? What would the profitability churn if we did a price increase and if we lose clients? And of course, if you have premium profits, it gives you the ability to outspend your competition to get a client, which gives you an advantage in the marketplace. Because if you can't afford to do marketing, you can't afford to hire an SDR, you can't afford to hire account executives and account managers, you can't afford to have a really good SEO plan and do digital marketing and hire a marketing manager, you can't afford to do those things, and I'm going to crush you in the marketplace. If you can only spend $100 to get a client and I can spend $27,000, I'm going to crush you in the marketplace. I'm going to take every single good client there is out there and salt the earth you stand on. Thank you, Kevin O'Leary. I am not going to play nice. So you got to understand, you got to charge enough to be able to outspend or at least keep pace. It decreases the number of clients you need, more profit with fewer. It decreases the number of staff you need, which is always a good thing because I think all of us as business owners, I mean, my staff is, all of them are outstanding, especially Will. I mean, they're all phenomenal, but that's not, I know you guys out there don't have the utopia that I have with all perfect employees. I can't even say it with a straight face.
No, don't.
Yeah. So, but it's like, we all know, like the more staff you have, the more headaches you have because they're human beings. I mean, even if they're good people, it's still chaotic, right? It allows you to pay for really top talent who are easy to work with versus just trying to prop up cheap labor. Because another mistake I see a lot of MSPs make, and I know, Will, you've seen this, is when you're small, you hire a mini-me. You hire a bunch of not even mini-me's. They're just like helpers. And then you prop them up. You basically get them to kind of do things, but you prop them up with, you can dive in and fix their work and oversee them and manage them really tight. And you hire them because they're cheap. But if you could hire one really good person and pay them what they're worth, it frees you up, right? But you can't do it if you're not making any money. And it allows you to deliver real premium service and wow, that fuels loyalty, fuels price increases, additional sales and referrals. Okay. So I think that's enough beating on. Hopefully you guys are charging enough, right? And you got to go back and figure out what your profit margins are and determine, are you making money and not? And if you're not, you got to kind of go through client by client and say, because you might have a handful of clients that are profitable. You might have a handful that are losing money and they're bringing down the overall profitability of the company. So you might not have to raise prices across the board, but you might have to fire a couple clients or significantly raise prices on some. You got to really get to the heart of it. And it's more than just, hey, raise your prices across the board, although you could do that. It's usually better to take a nuanced approach. All right. So we'll talk about what to include and how to charge for it. I'm going to go through this and then let Will really take over from here. But if you look at managed services, they kind of fall into 6 delivery areas. One is, of course, end user support. That's your help desk. That's the troubleshooting. That's something's down and you got to jump in and fix it. Okay. So there's end user support. There's core infrastructure management and services like managing the servers, routers, switches, all the things. There's risk mitigation. And that's everything to do with cybersecurity, backup, and compliance. So anything you're doing that to lower the risk for that business owner to loss. losses, data loss, downtime, ransomware, rogue employee, any of those things. That's all mitigating risk for that client. Now I know a lot of people say VCIO. I just told Will, I'm not going to say VCIO because I don't like that. Virtual CIO. What does that mean? Like you never visit with them. So I like the term fractional CIO leadership. So what that means is, just like there's organizations, like we have a fractional marketing manager. So they're not a full-time employee. We sell it as a service. You have a fractional marketing manager. They're dedicated to you. They do the things for you, but they're not a full-time employee. And so that is like leadership. That's sitting down with your clients and saying, okay, here's where you are today. Where we got to look at risk, like where security, backup, compliance. We got to look at just getting your network to good. So up to par. Which is fully integrated into your whatever your service stack is. And then we got to look at ways to be more productive and grow your organization, make you more competitive, et cetera, right? And sitting down and doing a budget and sitting down with your client and saying, okay, here's the roadmap. Here's where you are. Here's where we're going to be. You have this, you're going to have to upgrade these workstations. We're going to have to move you to this. We're going to, having that POAM in place where you're saying, okay, we got to get you compliant. We're not going to get it there in a month. So let's put a roadmap in place. So with the we can increase the budget so you can account for that. It's doing those kinds of services. That's what your QBRs are. It's where you're hopefully, you're being that fractional CIO leader to your organization. You're not just showing up and like the Maytag repair guy and fixing stuff when it breaks. You're actually taking a leadership role, right? And again, I see a lot of managed service providers, they are not taking that leadership role. They just jump in and fix stuff. Professional services, moves, add changes, projects that you're doing, and then proactive account management. That's more of like your sales, customer service, which could be still in that fractional CIO. But usually what you're going to do, like Will's organization, he has account managers who are salespeople, and they are bringing in his CISO, maybe bringing in John. I don't know what's John's title with
Chief Compliance Officer.
Yeah. So they're kind of coordinating the leaders to come together, make sure that they all play nice and making sure the client's happy and things are billed properly and money's collected and all the things, right? And I want to just say, however you want to break this down, you should have a core philosophy of what you believe excellent IT support to be. Just like I have a core philosophy about marketing. Like one of my core philosophies is we use direct response. We don't do just branding for branding's sake, right? We don't measure success of campaigns by hashtags. We measure it by leads and opportunities opened and sales closed, right? That's a core philosophy belief I have about marketing. Not everybody believes that. There are a lot of marketing firms out there that are branding specialists that'll make your website look beautiful, but they're not. The core philosophy is I spend $1 today, I want $2, hopefully $5 back, and I want it tomorrow as quickly as I can turn that dollar. Not all, like that's a core philosophy of what I believe good marketing is. It should facilitate sales. It should build trust. It should be designed to put you in a position of power and authority. So you prescribe instead of prospect. See, I'm just iterating my philosophy. You need to have a philosophy. Here's what good support is, and you align everything around that. Will, do you want to comment on that or?
No, everything you're saying is absolutely correct. We've got one comment here. Annual price increases are only scary the first year. And Don, that's exactly right. We build in a 5% increase, even though they signed a 3-year contract. We build a 5% increase every year. January, so November, we notify the price increase for the new year, just of a subset of our clients, and we gain an extra $37,000 a month of MOR by just having that price increase. And that helps offset inflation, extra cost that comes down the pipeline and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. I mean, you can always, and you can position it differently. You can say in our contract, we even guarantee not to raise prices more than 5% every year on the services you're paying. Now, if there's new services, that's different, right? You got to be very clear. We add on a new service, that's something entirely different. But for the services you have, we'll even make sure that we don't just hit you with a massive price increase out of the blue. We have it built in because we know there's going to be, inflation is going to go up, right? Okay.
And then Robin, we have a question, how to measure profitability per client or for the entire business. And I would say both. You want to know the profitability of the client because to see if that client is profitable or if you need to get rid of them or you need to have a price raise conversation. But then also for the whole company as well. And I look at it as simple as this. If you have $170, okay, and $100 is your hard and soft cost to support your direct labor costs, all your tools to support, you got $70 left. $50 of that is you're going to spend on your overhead, insurance, rent on your office, internet, printing, marketing, that type of stuff. That $20 out of the 70, that should be your net profit. That should be your savings. If that's the simplest way to explain net profit, gross margins, gross profit and stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes they say 50, 30, 20. So 50% is, 50% is going to be, that's your gross margin. And like Greg Crabtree says, your contribution margin or gross margin is the first dollar you can spend internally. Because if it costs you get $1 and it costs you 50 cents to deliver that thing. Like if this mug costs, $1, if I mark it up to $2, it costs me $1. So if I charge $2, I have $1 I can now spend on sales and marketing, customer service, general overhead. They usually call it GS&A, general service administration, or general sales administration. And so those are costs. So usually it's 50 and 30% is going to be the bucket for SG&A. And then you get 20% net profit. Okay. Now, sometimes I'll also throw in there's a thing called the rule of 40. So if you look at a company and let's say your net is only 10%, but you're growing 30%, as long as your growth, your CAGR, compound annual growth rate is whatever percentage that is, plus your net, as long as it equals 40, you're doing okay. So, I'm not saying I suggest this, but what that rule would suggest would be you could be not profitable as long as you're growing 40%, because the idea is that you're taking profits and you're plowing it back into growth. All right. So there is also that rule of 40, and there have been years in my business where we weren't as profitable because we were plowing money back into growth, but then it came back the next year. So you'll see it in growth. So just another way to look at what your spend is and your profits. All right. So service options to avoid, we've already been talking, like break fix as an ongoing mode of support, not as an initial way of getting a customer, cheap services to gain customers. Because I know sometimes I have heard of people doing this where they just charge some really low fee to get the customer and then they upsell and cross on, they try and do it, but kind of nickels and dimes people. So you got to be careful about that. All you can eat without hard edges and services that you're not willing or able to fulfill on. So when you are designing your service offering, again, design it with high value clients in mind, not the competition, not the cheapskates. What do the high value clients want and need? And always think of it that way. Focus on and business end results, not the tech. So another thing to getting higher fees is to be a true CIO, a chief information officer, a true leader in technology for that CEO. And if you're sitting down, then you're going to have to talk about IT budgets, cybersecurity and risk. You're going to have those conversations, putting together a roadmap. Here's what good is. And if you're going to win in the sales game, that's the way you want to come across. Because if most of you geek out and you start asking how many workstations, how many servers, what's the serial number on them, what kind of firewall, and CEO sitting there going like, I shouldn't even be in this meeting. You should be sitting with my admin who could figure this out. I don't have time for this. You want to make sure you're having a C-level discussion, define your edges, limit the choices and options, think packages, not custom contracts. In my organization, it's kind of funny. Allison started this. She said the C word around our office is custom, because that's when you start getting into where you can add a control cost and so forth. Name each package with an obvious tiered value. This is what Will has. He has basic, active, and complete. I believe that is still what you use, Will.
Yep, it is.
Yep. So you have a couple of packages there that you can offer somebody. Now we have this service plan comparison chart we put up on toolkitlive.com/pricing chart. So if you go there, you can download this. This will give you a general idea of what to include. Don't take it for gospel, please. This is a starting point. A lot of people have said they like this. It gives them a starting point. You are going to have to modify it for your costs and your clients and what you deliver. So please don't take this as here's the thing, because there is no one right way. It really does depend on your clients, your service offering, your costs. All right.
And Robin, what I like about that one is it's got the break fix. So it sort of takes that path and helps if your customer's looking at this from break fix to what's next, right? And I like the budget, and I call mine basic. That lower level package you have, you want to name it of something what a person doesn't want to be, right? They don't want to be basic. They don't want to be on a budget, right? Well, some people want to be on budget, but they want the professional, premium, complete, right? They want a bigger, so that it gives them a reason to buy up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might even have you could even do this. I've had clients do where instead of calling it budget, they might call it the micro business. Like if you're really, really tiny, this is where you would be. Professional, you can leave it as professionals. People want to be professional. And security minded instead of premium, because that's really where you're getting the most support and the least amount of risk. Just think about it. It's like when you choose a healthcare plan, usually there's you have your higher deductible or lower deductible. It's kind of like that. So toolkitlive.com/pricing chart, you can go download that. All right. So smart strategies to implement, revise your service stack with updated cyber protections. And you can use that as a reason for increasing your prices. So if you know that your prices are low, that's one of the things you can do. Here is just a high level. Again, you guys should design this for your clients, but the minimum here is a lot of what we're seeing on insurance forms that are required just to get insurance, like cyber liability or crime insurance, not just antivirus, but endpoint protection, two-factor authentication or multi-factor, cybersecurity awareness training, email encryption, so forth. And then advanced add-ons would be the managed SOC, SIM, zero trust environments like a threat locker, intrusion detection, single sign-on, dark web monitoring, etc. Will, you want to add anything on that?
No, and I would say, guys, the minimum, like what I'm about to show you guys here in a little bit, our minimum is what the insurance are requiring. And for the first time yesterday, I saw an insurance requirement, a document application that said, what compliancy or federal state compliancy are you required to maintain, right? So they're getting stricter. Now, it used to be, do you have MFA installed? Now, do you have MFA installed, and do you have it installed on your computers, your email, your third-party applications? So they're going even further now with these applications. So I would start with the minimum of what cybersecurity insurance requirements are and build upon that to your higher level packages.
Yeah. And, it's a marketing strategy too, guys. Find somebody local to you that sells cybersecurity insurance plans or crime liability, and partner up with them, talk to them, say, what should I be offering as an MSP? You can refer business to them and you get a partnership where they can refer business to you. A lot of insurance companies are now partnering with MSPs or even offering these services. So if you guys know Bruce McCulley, Galactic Advisors, he is getting a lot of MSPs. And I'm be curious, guys, post in the chat. I mean, I haven't really been looking at the chat. Be curious. Have any of you had a client come to you and say, I had my insurance guy tell me they could help me with cybersecurity? Because now insurance companies, they see it as something that in order to get a policy here, you got to have this. Oh, by the way, we can help you with that because we have a partner. We have an MSP. Either they're building their own services or they're partnering with MSPs to be able to deliver that, and they get a little cut. So, you gotta watch this, because this is really this is a big game changer in the MSP industry. This is why we're saying you got to have the new managed services. If you're not keeping up with the minimum requirements that insurance companies are requiring, you're not going to be competitive, especially as we get into regulatory compliance or laws, state law, with personal information protection. Okay. Rename your service contract to 2023, including the year you get to come back and upgrade. Will, you want to talk about that? I know you do that. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so really just every year changes. So what we love doing is the things I've sold with the contracts we sold in 2022. Now we're actually going through in our quarterly or QBRs and talking to clients about what is new in our 2023 package. That's a way to raise your price a little bit, but also give some tools in there that is going to meet extra requirements. So as you're going to, hey, we're going to be talking about boot camp, right? Coming up in April. As you go to boot camp, you meet a new vendor. I won't add that vendor in my 2023 stack, but I will sell it as a la carte for 2023. And then I will go in 2024, add it to the stack, and then go back and resell it to the customer as a package on another 3-year contract.
Okay, really smart. So another thing, consider offering a 1, 2, 3-year contract, gives slightly better pricing on the longer term than the shorter term. But again, always have that no more than a 5% annual fee increase or something to that effect. So you still give better pricing, but with if they sign a longer term contract, and you should enforce that, because if you have a client who signs a 3-year agreement, a lot of the vendors, I know Kaseya got eaten alive for this, but a lot of the vendors do require longer term contracts now. They're everybody shamed Kaseya. Now they're all stealing the idea, because I've seen it more and more where they're offering 3-year contracts. So if you sign a 3-year contract for some kind of tool or license that you need to support that client, you're on the hook for that. So, you want to make sure you go to your clients and say, hey, if you put me, I'm going to make commitments on staff and on tools to make sure that we can commit to that 3 years, so if they want to cancel early, behold them to it. I'm curious, I didn't even think about this. Well, do you have some sort of buyout? So if it is a 3-year contract, is there a buyout clause where they can buy out? I think that could be an option, although you don't even have to have that,
It is. We have it, but it's 75% of the remaining of the contract to buy out. Yep.
Yeah.
And some of the other things that we do, so to really get them into it, and all our contracts start at 3-year. We will go down, but it's an increase, like you're saying here. But to get them really comfortable with us, obviously that's a big commitment, right? And so we do a 30-day money back guarantee, and then we do a 6-month try us before you commit. So the first 6 months, you can give us a 30-day notice and get out of the contract, but that gives them some wiggle room of not fully committing until after 6 months. Now, after 6 months, the 36-month contract starts then. So technically, I'm getting them for 42 months. Yep.
Right. And I see the comment, Robert, it's not that they have a 3-year contract. It's that they automatically renew for a 3-year without telling you. You're 100% right. They've changed that. So that's where they got in trouble, right? But that aside, I don't disagree with you at all. But I'm just saying that there are a lot of vendors now who are requiring 3-year contracts, or will give you much better pricing if you'll sign a 3-year agreement. So, you want to make sure you get the best pricing, because that goes right to your bottom line if you can save money. So if you're doing that, if you get a client and you're onboarding them, I think it's 100% reasonable to say, hey, we got a 3-year contract, because you're making commitments for them that you're going to be beholden to. Now, obviously, if you don't perform, no contract's going to be viable if you don't perform the job or you don't deliver. But if you're doing what you should, it kind of locks that client in. And you should hold them to that, because, like I said, you're making commitments. Also, only allows the options to pay by credit card or bank draft. Another thing I would really recommend you guys get out of is we'll bill you and then they send you a check. Just get them on a bank draft, or get them to pay by credit card. I mean, and if they want to pay by credit card, I'm even okay if you want to just say if you want to pay by bank draft, there's no upcharge. But if your credit card, there's a 3%, you got to pay for the 3% surplus. If you want to pay by credit card, totally okay with that. I believe Connect Booster does that, right? Is that what you use? Will?
Yeah, I use Connect Booster. I only take ACH or credit cards, and I think I do 3.5% if you use a credit card.
Yeah. So just get that set up, guys. That way you don't have to monkey around. You just charge them, and you get the money right away, and you don't have a collection issue. And I believe Connect Booster also will help you with making sure you collect the money that you're supposed to collect. I don't know that much about it. I know you use it, Will, but yeah, a lot of our Producers Club, I think it's like 80% of our Producers Club members use Connect Booster. Because we just had to pull that recently for a sponsorship deal that they wanted to, see how many users they had. So I think it's about 80%. Also, most important, create a pricing calculator that accounts for all costs. So, that the thing is, and this is where Will's going to take over and show you a pricing calculator he created. Pricing tools are really easy. You pay $5 or whatever for Threat Locker. You know how to mark that up, right? But what I think a lot of you, and this is tough, is accounting for. It's not just the device or this piece of software. Your engineers have to still touch it and support it, right? And I think it was even, Jeff Farr, who's one of our client coaches, I think he's recommends somewhere, usually it's around 30 minutes per device, I think it is, or something to that effect, for an engineer to just touch it, look at it, support it. Maybe there's some things that kind of run more on autopilot. Maybe some things take more, but I think you have to really dig into labor per device supported, so that way you can appropriately price your services. So this is where Will has something like this for his organization. He's offered to show you guys. So I'll let you.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to answer some of these questions real fast. So the question was about the 75%. So let's say they owe you $100 left for the rest of the contract. You're going to charge them 75. So that's the easy math on that, to give you guys an example of that. When I do go down from a 3 to 1 year and 24-month contract, so I do a 7%, 14% on a 1 year, and a 25% on month to month. I do break out. Another question is, do I break out Microsoft? Absolutely do not include Microsoft subscription. So anything subscriptions, Adobe, Microsoft, anything we sell as subscription based is separate from our managed services. And then how do I handle the 30-day money back guarantee? I will tell you, knock on wood, and I got some wood here, I've never had that happen to me.
Don't say that. Don't say I have some wood here. That is just nasty. We're talking about you.
I'm talking about the table, Robin.
Sure you are. Oh God, well, I'm on a public webinar here. This is a family show, nobles.
That I've never had to. You throw me way off, Robin. I've never had to do the 30-day money back guarantee. But yes, absolutely. What I'm about to show you guys is going to encourage you that you need to do an onboarding fee for your managed services, because if you look at what you oh my God, told you.
See, Adrian said he's going to tell Jesus.
So the Robin, you're killing me. You're killing me.
Sorry.
So you want to make sure that you charge the onboarding fee, because it's going to take you. You're going to see 6 months to you actually start making a profit if you're not charging that onboarding fee. So let me throw this up here. I'm going to tease this with you. I'm not going to show you everything today. Little teaser here. They got to steer me out of the gutter. It's not my fault. I blame Will. So one, I'm going to share my package with you guys real fast.
Pray for me.
Go through this real fast, but I break it down per user, per core, and per computer, per site, per server, compliance, and everything. So that's just a little teaser there for you guys as well. Again, I said I'm going to tease you guys just a little bit, so I wanted to fly through that. But here's a packaging here, the calculator here. So let's say I've got 10, let's say 20 users, and I've got 25 computers, and I've got one site, and I've got one server here, and I want to do my middle package here. So that would be $6,221 a month. And then the estimated one-time onboarding fee, and then how many hours it would take. Now, this is my engineers have gone through of all the hours that it would take to actually implement that many users, that many computers in a site, and everything. And then when you fly through this is the sort of the breakdown of how all the calculation works here in the back end. So again, just wanted to show that to you guys quickly. Robin wanted me to tease you guys with that really quick.
Yeah, we're not going to give that to you because guys, it's a confidential document too. So So real quick, Bo is saying, so I think you answered this, but I want to make sure we get it. So he said you shoot for 70% gross margin, which is really, really high, guys. I'm going to tell you, most is like 50%. If you're 50%, you're going to be doing okay.
Yep.
But 70%, if you can charge it, does that mean if you're selling a seat for $100 for easy math, and the software and services soft costs should be at $30 to get a 7% gross margin? And that is correct.
Yep. So and I'm going to do mathematical for you guys. Gross margin equals revenue minus COGS, which is hardware, software costs to support that device.
Labor.
Labor. Yep. Divided by revenue. Okay. So let me do the math. So if you're going to charge $160 for a computer or per user, right, and your cost is $50 for that, you're going to be 68% gross profit.
Mm-hmm.
I know I did a quick math. I don't have it on the screen and everything, but think of it that way. And when you're building your cost out, and what you really want to do, and we're not going to go too far into this, but you've got your hard cost, right? You've got your antivirus, your RMM, your threat lockers of the world. You got, your backups of the world, all the good stuff there that it costs for that computer. That's your hard cost. Your soft cost, you want to calculate on your direct labor. And the direct labor is your service manager, your service coordinators, your level 1, 2, 3 engineers. That is your direct labor, not your management. So if you have sales team, marketing team, if you're not spending 51, this is a great Crabtree thing. If you're not spending 51% of your time to direct labor, you need to be in management labor. And that comes out of your net from that standpoint. So I know I'm throwing that out really quick, but just something for you guys to think about.
Yeah. What Bo has here on, you have it right. So for example, if you do have 70% gross margin, you can use 50% for overhead. Because I've even argued that, and again, I'm talking to like people like Paul Sissel and Jeff Farr and, Greg Crabtree and stuff, like with us, I have always shot for a higher gross margin so that I can reinvest in more of sales and marketing, right? So if I do 50%, that eats into my marketing budget. So I would rather be 70% and then have the extra cash to put into hiring salespeople, into doing more marketing, and use that to fuel my growth, which has worked out really well for us. So, but it is harder because when you start getting up into that kind of certain gross margin, your fees are going to go up, and you're going to be on the higher end of fees, right? So you also can't deliver if you're going to be on the higher end of fees. You also have to be able to deliver that kind of service. So yes, so that was absolutely correct. Did you get all the other questions? Well, I saw you clearing them. Did you address all the others?
I did, and I'm looking through. Besides, the comments of steering Robin out of the gutter.
Pray for me. I don't want to be here when Jesus comes. Do you know what I mean? I want to be in a different state of mind. Oh Lord. Okay. Okay. So one of the things I'd say, guys, if there's any other questions, post them there. But one of the things that we are going to do, Will is actually going to be at this year at our boot camp. So you guys have heard, most of you who are on this webinar are members. So if you're a member, if you're a toolkit, MSP launch, accelerators, producers club, you already get 2 VIP tickets to come to boot camp. Now, if you haven't claimed them yet, you got to claim them, and you got to get registered, and you got to get your hotel room booked, because if you don't, right now, the Omni and the Westin, which are the 2 places we had room blocks, they're completely sold out. There are about 12 other hotels within walking distance. We have them listed after you register. There's like 12 hotels that are comparable in price. You're not going to be staying at the hotel or across the street, but it will be within a block or 2 walking distance. And then once you get there, man, once you get to the event, we feed you constantly. So it's not like you got to go get something to eat, and, you'll have everything you need there. So you just got to have a place to sleep. So but I would recommend that. Now, one of the things Will is going to do is he's actually going to go through that pricing calculator in detail. It's going to be just one of the sessions at boot camp. So if you want to get that and you want to have him go through that in greater detail, he might even give it to you. I don't know. You'll have to get him drunk maybe there, but he is going to go through that in detail, explain the reasoning behind it, show the formulas, the calculation, and even share it with you. We don't want to just give it away on a public. I understand he doesn't want to give it away on a public webinar. We don't know who's out there. It could be one of his biggest competitors, or someone who, believe it or not, Will has, I think, one hater in the world, someone who doesn't like him, and they might use it against him. I mean, he's not like me.
Maybe two.
I've got all kinds of haters. You know what I mean? I don't even try, and people, I just piss people off. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even trying, and it happens. So anyway, but so I would say this is one of the sessions you can see here. You can reserve your tickets here. This is the virtual, I'm sorry, on the main URL, robinsbigseminar.com. If you're on the dashboard, you can reserve your tickets there as well. If you click here, it'll take you down here. And if you're owed tickets, you see this little button here. If you're owed tickets with your membership, you click there. And what it's going to do is going to take you over to the dashboard and get you registered. But, one of the things that you can see here, we are going to have the Sharks of Shark Tank. So Robert, Damon, and Kevin are going to be there with they're going to be judging the Better Your Best competition this year, which is going to be phenomenal. We have 5 finalists. They've all added an average of $1.1 million to their business, which is like 38% growth. And these MSPs are anywhere from, I think the smallest we had is 1.7 million. The largest in the competition is about 7 million. So these aren't like massively big MSPs. We're adding $1 million is like relatively easy. These are, $1 million, 2 million, 3 million. We have one that's at 7, a little bit bigger. You can see from the speakers, I'm going to be doing a session, a deep dive on trust-based marketing. How do you get clients and the marketplace to trust you? I'm going to be doing an opening night session talking about the state of the industry, what we're seeing, new trends, numbers. Again, the Sharks are coming. You got the Better Your Best finalists and the blueprints. When you come to the event, you get that. We're having Nick Vujicic. You guys probably never heard of Nick. He's actually born with no arms and no legs. And the guy is incredible entrepreneur, inspirational. I've been trying to get Nick to one of my events for 10 years now, and he's just now started to go back on the speaking tour. He's phenomenal. We're going to have him. Again, a trust-based marketing session. We are also dedicating the last day, which is a half day. The last day is going to be dedicated to mergers and acquisitions. So if you have any interest in selling your company or buying another MSP, we're going to have a whole half day dedicated to that. We have broken up the speakers into a CEO track. So for those of you that are owners, and here's just a few of the sessions. We have a marketing track. So if you want to bring your marketing manager, and I would highly, highly recommend you get your marketing manager here. There's a whole marketing manager track. And then there is also a sales management and process track. So we are going to have multiple sessions, multiple speakers, just tons of value here. I mean, it's just insane what we're giving away here. And one of the sessions will be Will going over this pricing formula calculator and how is he calculating it so that you guys can actually take this. We should be able to come up with a simple version of this that we can give all of you. So that in of itself, think about if you just had that tool and when you come to boot camp in person and you get there and you get that tool, I mean, that alone is going to be worth coming to the event. So just a quick plug here. Yes, I'm being hurtful. I'm going to reserve it and I'm not going to give it to you until you come to the event. But we want to get you here. All right. And like I said, most of you watching this are owed tickets. And if you're already registered, you got that to look forward to. And if you're not registered, get your butt registered and get your hotel booked. That's so important. We are not like 91% sold out right now for the entire venue, the entire event. And we always, when I say sold out, folks, you got to understand, we oversell by 10%. So if every single person showed up, we wouldn't have enough seats for everybody. But we always know there's a 10% no show always. It's just no matter what, even people pay for tickets. And not everybody's in the room at the same time because some of you hang out in the lounge and some in the bar and some in the vendor area and some are up in their room and some are just using this as a cover as they go screw around downtown Nashville or whatever they're doing. So this is going to be great. This year it's Raiders of the Big Profits. That's our theme. We always have a fun theme like Raiders of the Lost Ark. So we're going to have just a great time. So make sure you get registered to that event and will make sure that he shares his, package, I
had to do it one more time.
I said it I was very platonic and professional when I said it. So, I didn't smirk. All right. And then this recording will be put on the dashboard. with that pricing chart and the slide deck, but you got to come to boot camp if you want that pricing chart. That's really powerful. I am not going to even read some of the comments. See, you think I'm bad. Now they're starting. See, like you kicked them all off. I'm not even going to read some of their, I'm not reading their comments. All right. So yeah, it says, they're free for members. They're happy to connect with one of our senior coaches. So yeah, so when you come to, if you are a toolkit member, MSP launch, accelerators, or producers club, we have included 2 tickets to our annual event. We just made that decision about a year and a half ago. We decided to just, why are you got to come to the event. So we just raised prices and included it. So if you're in a membership, you are paying for your ticket. So you want to make sure you get there, because we don't repeat this in the sense that it's never the same content. Every year it's new ideas, new speakers, new sessions, new ideas, everything's always changing and evolving. So make sure you get here. This is not the same as coming to a Rapid. This is not the same as coming to a producers club or a fall road show. Those are different events. This is our big annual international conference. And this is the event where we have a lot of international clients. Like they won't come in for maybe roadshow. I mean, some of them do. They won't come in for roadshow or a Rapid or something like that, but they will fly in for this. That's how cool this event is. A game changer. Really, if you're going to pick one event to come to, this is the event. Out of all the events we do, if you're a member and you're serious about growth, this would be the event I go to. And the vendor hall's off the hook too, because we have like 90 vendors, different vendors, a lot of new ones. Like last year, I think we had like 25 brand new vendors, like people hadn't even seen before. So we're always bringing new stuff to you. It's just a cool event. So Will, you're looking at the chat. Is there any questions we need? I mean, guys, if you have questions, put it in the Q&A, because some of you are putting it in the chat. It's really hard to kind of keep track of that.
No, I think everything and everybody, got a few questions asking about the spreadsheet, and yes, I will. I'll either share that or a smaller version of that with you guys at boot camp. If you come and go to that session, I'll definitely share that. And I'll actually even share my actually managed services package with you guys too. That's a little give me there, Robin.
Okay. But yeah, you got to be at boot camp. It's got to be in a controlled environment. I totally understand that. You get on these webinars, you don't know who's on here and stuff like that. But we wanted to do this session because I think, again, right now, boot camp aside, there really is a need with what's going on with cyber and regulatory compliance and insurance companies. Guys, you really need to take a closer look at what you're doing for your managed services offering, and we're talking to clients about this a lot. We've been getting just a ton of questions. So that's why we decided to kind of do this bonus webinar. I mean, I just did a webinar today. It was on a campaign to convert break fix to managed services. I just did that webinar earlier, and everybody they didn't want to talk about the campaign. They wanted to know, how do you package and price it? And I'm like, so it's like everybody wanted to know this. So we wanted to just hold this for you, give you the pricing chart, give you some guidelines on it, and have you take a closer look at what you're doing so you stay competitive this year, because there are what I've coined the term super MSPs. A lot of people are using it now and stealing my ideas. What else is new, right? So there's a lot of super MSPs out there. They're private equity backed MSPs. They're rolling up a lot of other smaller MSPs to have a nationwide presence. And the goal is to roll up all these MSPs and then sell. They have private equity money backing them, and these guys are very, very aggressive, and they've got big, deep pockets, and they, private equity money is, been dumping into this industry. So, if you're going to compete with these guys, you got to compete. You got to be ready for it, because they're going to come in and they don't want your cheap little client that pays you $200 a month for break fix. They don't want those. They don't want them. They're going to go after your top managed clients, the ones that are willing to pay more, that do pay more, and they're going to offer them compliance, cybersecurity. They're going to offer them a better roadmap. They're going to have true fractional CIO services, do the QBRs. They have a good sales team, marketing team, and they're the clients they're going to try and cherry pick off of you, not your cheapo ones, right? So you've got to make sure you're revising what you're doing to be competitive and to keep those customers, if for no other reason, and there's money to be made. So it's like a 2 reason why you'd want to do that. All right. Well, I think I've stalled enough. Did that give you a chance to, are there more questions we need to answer?
Oh, there's several coming in. I'll answer a
Okay.
few. How does ACH work with non-fixed invoices? Completely the same. Especially like when we use Connect Booster, we bill out of QuickBooks, and ConnectWise join to Connect Booster. They log in the portal and pay it there. So same thing, that same process with that, and just it makes it very simple and easy for them to plug in their information and pay there.
So let me ask you, so real quick, because I don't know. So if you're doing a project for a client and your staff is logging hours or whatever, so does Connect Booster like adjust the bill? Does it do all that automatically, or how does that work?
In the connection with your PSA, it does. And so like, for example, with our fixed projects, we'll bill 25% up front, 50% on a agreed upon time, and then 25%. Yes, accounting has to interact with that. Now, if it's more of a hourly type project, then putting the time in, obviously the tech, it starts with the text, right? Putting the right time in, which will put it with that agreement, which sends it up to the invoice from ConnectWise or any PSA to Connect Booster.
Got it. Okay. All right. So that's very good. All right. What else do you want to answer here?
So are we, I know the webinar is recorded, and we're going to make the webinar shareable, right, Robin?
Yeah. So yeah, we'll put it up on our dashboard, the recording, the slide deck. Yeah. So that'll be up on our dashboard. Just give us like 24 hours to turn that around.
Yep. And then I got a question: how much is Connect Booster? That is I don't know. There is a minimum fee that gets started, and then there's a max fee that you would pay depending on how much you process. I mean, I process 600 some thousand a month through it. So I'm paying the max fee for it, plus the credit card processing fee, if whatever those fees are and stuff. So I would reach out to them, and they can help you.
Okay. Another question: does the 150 per seat include everything in the basic package?
Yeah, so I would say my cheapest package is, when it comes down to, let's say a per device, all in, probably cheapest is 120. I think 190 is my middle package, and when it comes to my top level package is about 265.
Okay. All right. And, one of the things I wanted to make sure that this was still live. Let me share my screen real quick. So Connect Booster does offer a discount to our members. I am going to put this in the chat for everybody. Let me just grab this for everyone. Connectbooster.com/TMT. I don't know what the discount is, but I do know they give a discount to our members, but I don't know what like my sponsor team set this up. So, yeah, I don't know. This has been up for a while, but so if you guys are interested in Connect Booster, check it out, use this, and, lock in TMT members. Again, I'm not sure what it is, but there is a discount on that. All right. The other thing is a question here. I'm going to answer this live is, what is the dashboard? The dashboard is the member portal that we have for our members. So if you're not a member, you can go over to technologymarketingtoolkit.com, sign up for a demo, become a member. This is just one of the little pieces of content that we can provide you. And you get bootcamp tickets when you become a member. So, Adrian, I see unless you might be a member, I don't know. Forgive me. We've got, thousands of members. So I don't know if you are, then the dashboard is the member portal. That's what we call the member portal, where we keep all of our content, all of our webinars, all of our templates, everything included. Okay. Will, is there anything else?
I think that's it.
Else? Okay. I think we're good. All right. Well, Will, I appreciate you. I know where are you at right now? You're going on vacation tomorrow.
Yeah, I am at the Grove Park Inn in Asheville, North Carolina.
So nice. Yeah.
So I got to be in the, massage all day tomorrow. So I don't know how I got talked into that.
What a light. I'll tell you, he's got a beautiful wife, and I'm glad she's dragging you off away from work to relax for a minute. You well deserve it. And I'm not joking about that. So, all right, guys, and Karen in the background, thank you guys. I appreciate it. If you have any other questions, reach out to us, and hopefully we'll see you guys at boot camp. All right. So thanks, everybody.